Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are connecting from. Thank you for joining this webinar. Gonna give a few minutes maybe before everybody is here. Right. Okay, so yeah, this is another episode of Sync Room, a webinar series by Exalate, where we cover everything ITSM integration from implementation to strategy and whatnot. So here I have Majid with me, the head of support and services at Exalate. And I am Manoush. I'm the head of marketing at Exalate. Not a very typical marketing department, I would say. And that's why I'm here. And I welcome you to the third episode of Sync Room. So in this episode, what we are going to talk about is about MSPs and how they save hours per engineer per week by adopting the right integration, and how they can scale to like 50 plus clients without adding headcount to their engineering team. So I'm going to jump right in and kick off with an actual code from our partner, SPK and Associate. They are an MSP who provide engineering services. So I'm going to read the code directly from them. We identified two recurring challenges in our MSP engagements. One was the traditional software development lifecycle challenge, where we worked with multiple vendors who had sophisticated solutions like ALMs, PLMs, etc. We specifically looked for data transformation and integration. In such cases, both SPK and our customers didn't want to open up respective platforms to each other fully. Now, Majid, as an engineer who works day in and day out with different companies' challenges, especially when it comes to data sharing and integrations, how relatable is that code to you?
Yeah, extremely relatable, right? And I would say it's not just the MSPs, it's the norm across almost every company we talk to. So I'll give you an example. Just last week, I was on a call with an MSP who was managing 30 clients across three different industries. So manufacturing, fintechs, healthcare, all in there. Now, every single vertical had a different reason and a valid reason why they couldn't hand over system access to the other side, right? Different tools, different workflows, different risk profiles. And yet, the ask from all of them was exactly the same. We need our data to talk to each other, right? That's the challenge. But the challenge is not just purely a trust issue between two parties. I think it's a regulatory one as well. So, in many cases, it's legally not possible to hand over access of your system to the other side. So, I'm thinking compliance here, I'm thinking HIPAA, SOC 2, GDPR, ISO, all that sort of stuff. So, there are real compliance obligations around who can access what data and under what conditions, and you've got to respect that. Now, what SPK described is something we see constantly. Two organizations that need to work together, but neither can fully open up their systems to the other. So the data ends up being siloed, work gets duplicated, and the integration becomes a bottleneck rather than an enabler for the business.
All right. So when this happens and these MSPs cannot like share access with their clients and the other way around, what do most MSPs do? Do they just go like, "I'm sorry, we cannot help you," or do they try to duct tape something in place, like let's say APIs or custom scripts or whatever? What happens then?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, right? Duct tape it. And I would pick
Yeah.
that actually. I think most do actually end up duct taping it. And honestly, I can totally see why, right? The MSPs are under severe pressure to deliver, and the path of least resistance makes sense to a lot of them under that pressure, right? And this path of least resistance could take the shape of scripts, as you said, it can take the shape of automations, and more these days it would be AI related, right? So
Yeah.
what I've seen a lot of people end up doing is that they start small and they build point-to-point API integrations. So that would mean that you build a custom solution for one particular client, right? And we actually dedicated a whole episode around this, like how you work around these things, which was like email is not really a sync solution. Now it sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised as to how many MSPs are actually still using email threads and shared spreadsheets to maintain this. It's not the way to go for a number of reasons. But the newer pattern, Manoush, that we're seeing in the market right now is that MSPs are heavily leveraging AI generated code to build
Yes.
integrations, right? You can see why, right? It's easy. You can have a working integration up in minutes, basically. But what you end up with is undocumented, unowned infrastructure. It works under the exact conditions that it was written for, and it works beautifully in there. But the moment that the client changes something, which will happen in the real world, the system breaks, right? And it's genuinely very difficult to diagnose it at that point. So nobody on the team is well versed with the solution. Nobody has the correct skill set to do it, and you end up just exasperating the problem. So this is not really an integration strategy. It's just you're building technical debt over the years. And the compounding effect is the same regardless of how you duct tape it. Now, if the MSP does the AI thing, if they do the point to point, the end result is the same. The MSP ends up in a reactive posture. They're firefighting instead of delivering value to their clients. And the quick fix that they got overnight is the most expensive decision they made. It's not just engineering hours, but like the client missed SLAs, the lack of trust, and all that sort of stuff that comes into it.
I see. So I want to go back to a point that you mentioned, and that's about AI, like all the buzz and everything, right? So if I hear correctly, you're saying that the AI cannot be your infrastructure for integration. You need like a more solid, robust engine in place, on top of which there can be a layer of AI that can help simplify the whole process, can simplify like your scripting or whatever else, and like add features and whatnot. Is that correct?
Ah, yes, thank you for that. Yes, indeed, that is exactly it, right? So the AI will never in its nature be a sync engine, right? So the AI is probabilistic in nature, but synchronization by definition has to be deterministic, right? So the sync engine itself has to be strong enough, resilient enough. But yes, the AI is a layer on top of that engine that enables you to maintain it, configure it in the easiest manner possible.
Yeah.
So indeed, your assumption is accurate.
I see. I see. And then I want to go back to the last point that you mentioned about like emails. So, another MSSP this time, like security service provider, they have also like told us that before they fixed this whole like integration thing for them, they were reliant on a single point of contact, which was mainly email. And imagine like trying to manage all of these incidents between them and their clients like through those emails. Like, yeah, they somehow got buried in it, right? How does that access problem that we were talking about earlier can cascade, and what else breaks in this whole like process?
Yeah, so I think the problem is like 20 times in case of MSSPs because they're dealing with security incidents, right? So,
Sure.
at the risk of sounding obvious, when you're managing security incidents, time is everything, right? So, a critical alert that comes in and sits in somebody's inbox for 20 minutes, let's say, right? Because there's no automated sync to the other side. Now, this 20 minutes is not just an inconvenience, it's a breach of trust that your client has placed in you to monitor their infrastructure, and it's potentially a breach of the SLA contract as well. And this single point of contact problem, it compounds this significantly. When there's no proper integration, human beings will come in and fill the gap. So one person ends up holding the entire context. Which client systems are in play? What is the escalation path? What is the troubleshooting approach? What version they're on? All that knowledge lives inside a single head. And the moment that person becomes unavailable, you're horribly exposed. So for an
Mhm.
MSSP managing security incidents, no, that's not an acceptable risk profile in any way. Then there's a
Mhm.
whole other aspect to the MSSPs which is the data isolation piece, right? So again, each client's environments are sovereign. Their incidents, their vulnerabilities, their data is very, very, very private to them, right? You cannot have one client's tickets bleeding into another client's systems. So
Mhm.
the integration architecture has to be very airtight by design from day zero to be able to achieve that. And when that architecture doesn't exist, the cascade is predictable. Incidents get delayed, SLAs get mixed, review calls happen, and yeah, you're losing the client slowly but surely.
Okay. And would adding like an engineer to the team to actually like take care of this integration fix it? Um, do you think that is something that can solve the problem, especially when you're trying to like scale to, let's say, like 50 plus clients?
Yeah, no, not really. Not really. Because the problem is never about the headcount. It's never about the number of people. It's always about the architecture, as we discussed, right? And
Mhm.
adding more engineers to a broken architecture, it doesn't fix it. It means that you just have more people maintaining something that was never designed to scale in the first place. So to solidify it, think about what you're asking this person to do, the extra headcount that you're getting in this engineer. Now, they're not building anything new. They're inheriting a web of point to point integrations. each one slightly different, each one undocumented, each one written probably under a time pressure by someone who's already left the company, right? So at 10 clients, yeah, you might be able to get away with it, right? With enough good resources and troubleshooting stuff, you probably get away with it. At 50, it's just impossible, right? You're not running a services business anymore, then you're in the integration maintenance operation business, and that happens to have clients on the other side of it, right? The same logic, by the way, applies exactly to we'll use AI to scale it. So you hear that as well, right? I hear it oftentimes from customers. Yeah, we'll use AI and we'll scale the existing thing. But the problem is what you alluded to earlier. Like if the underlying architecture isn't designed for resilience and isolation, then you're just basically producing more things to break faster with AI, right? The only model, Manoj, that would hold for me for 50 plus clients is where integrations are autonomous and resilient, right?
Mhm.
Now, what that means is that they do not require a technical intervention everything something goes wrong. Your normal support engineers should be able to work around it. So to answer your question, no, more headcount is not the answer. A better architecture is.
All right. So they have to fundamentally attack the problem first in order to have like better integrations in place and everything. I see.
Indeed.
So I think
And
that's
do it pretty
yeah,
early on.
and do it pretty early on for sure. I think that's a good segue to the costs as well, because yeah, we are doing business here, right? So and that is the most important thing to businesses. So what is the real cost when an MSP is running integrations that are half baked or duct tape, as we said, or even worse, when they cannot even integrate with their end clients because of the access problem that we discussed earlier?
Yeah. So I think the most obvious answer that people go to in this case is the engineering hours. Easy to count, easy to predict, and but eventually, actually, if you think about it as a business, that's probably the smallest cost that you're being hit with, right? The more damaging cost here is the deals that you never close. So imagine
Yeah,
when a prospect comes to you and asks you the question point blank, guys, how do you integrate with my ServiceNow instance? And if you cannot answer that in a confident, credible way right there, then that conversation has ended, right? You might still win that deal, you might not, but you will never actually know what impact that had. Now, that invisible revenue loss, it compounds over time, and it's something very, very real. Then there's the SLA exposure to it, right? So SLAs aren't just contractual obligations, they're the basis of the entire client relationship, especially in the case of MSSPs. So if you're missing enough of them, yeah, obviously there's a financial penalty with that, but there's more than that. You are going into review conversations with clients who are already mentally evaluating alternatives, right? And this all encapsulates into the biggest cost that an MSSP could have, and that's reputational, right? Now, every business runs on reputation, of course, but I think the MSPs run a lot on reputation. And by that, I mean referrals, right? So one client who ends up having a poor experience is not just a churn. It's one client who's going to go out and share that experience with that pool of other possible
sure.
clients. So your reputation takes a big, big hit.
Yeah, that is indeed like one of the most difficult things to recover from, especially if you're like based on like referrals, for sure. Um, Majid, we also get this objection frequently, I would say, from especially from smaller MSPs that they go like, we are too small to already start thinking about like an integration strategy. You mentioned it like very briefly, or they on the flip side they go and they say that okay, we'll just like build it in house. How difficult could it be? How do you usually like answer those questions?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? So you hear that. I think everybody's heard that. We're not big enough yet, right? So the problem there is that the integration debt, it accumulates silently. Like as I said earlier, like at 5 clients, you can probably get away with it. You will kind of get away with it and things are okay. But as soon as you start scaling up to 15, 20, 30, that's when it really the pain starts to hit. And it's too late by then, right? If the architecture is already in place and it is bad, then it's very, very hard to just lift and shift that to a proper integration solution because you're invested in it, your clients are invested in it, and it's not just a simple flip switch that you can do. Uh, on the other approach of the building in-house, I have a very simple question to my MSP clients, right? I ask them, listen, guys, what is your core business here? And hopefully the answer usually is delivering managed services, right? Which it should be. So in that case, then your engineering talent, the best engineering talent that you have, should be pointed at delivering those services rather than build integration solutions from scratch, right? So building an integration solution is one thing, okay, but then maintaining it, updating it, keeping it up to date with the API
Yeah,
changes, with the changing landscape, right? It's a full-time job, and that's a product company's job. It's not like a services business job. So yeah, it's we're blurring the lines here a little bit. And AI is making this objection more and more common because even non-tech people are now spinning up scripts and kind of seeing that data is transferring from one side to the other. And yeah, they think it's already working. But the complexity, it will keep multiplying and you will just keep adding to your technical debt as months go on. It's not a good strategy.
I see. And so, okay, I noticed the keyword there, scalability. So what does a scalable integration really look like for an MSP, especially one that you cannot fully like open the access and whatnot, and they want to scale? So, and what are the non-negotiables in here? Because I think that this is like this is a very defining like factor for them.
Yeah, for me, like for the MSPs I work with, right, in a consultative capacity, it has to be a plug and play approach. The scaling
Mhm.
has to be as simple as a plug and play approach, right? So you have an interface defined, and a new client comes in and they plug into your interface, and away you go, right? Very nice, quick to set up. The non-negotiables are interesting, and I think each organization would have their own. But for me, there are three, and they're very cliched. There's security, autonomy, and flexibility, right? But I want to dissect them a little bit. So security has to be by design. It has to be at the heart of everything that you're doing. So the integration has to work without one party opening up their system to the other. That has to be the definition, right? Each side controls exactly what data they want to share with the other side, no more, no less, right? And of course, we spoke about the compliance piece as well, which kind of requires this security by design. So that is pillar number one for me, non-negotiable. Second is autonomy. Now, by autonomy, I simply mean that the sync, once established, has to be running autonomously. You do
Mhm.
not need to intervene into it daily. The best that you need is just to monitor it in an automated way. And if something breaks, if there's a problem, you get alerted and yet you go and fix that problem. But other than that, the integration itself has to run totally autonomously. And the third, of course, is the flexibility. Very crucial, right? So no two client environments are exactly the same. And any tooling that forces you into a fixed data model, well, it'll hit the wall very fast. So the integration logic itself has to be customizable so that it
Mhm.
can support all these different various client environments. So yeah, those are the three for me personally.
Perfect. Okay, so Majid, what do you say that you walk us through a practical example? And I have like a common use case in mind that you can showcase for us. Let's say we have an MSSP that uses ServiceNow, and that's where automated alerts actually come in from all end clients. And I want to focus on two specific end clients of this MSP. One is MSSP, one is in Jira Cloud, and the other one is in Azure DevOps. So let's see how it looks.
Yeah, that's so thank you for describing it. That's exactly how I've got it set up. So let's say that the service now is my MSP, right? Or the MSSP, actually, let's say, it doesn't really matter. Now, what happens is that if you're monitoring infrastructure for a lot of clients, you would have tooling set up which would bring alerts directly into ServiceNow and create incidents out of it, right? Now, those incidents need to be transferred over to your clients. Now, for this example, I have one client sitting in a Jira Cloud instance and another client, just for the sake of it, sitting in an Azure DevOps instance, but could be anything really, right? So, how do we get started with it? How do we build it? I'm going to go from scratch and we'll customize it a little bit as we go along. So we're going to concentrate on the ServiceNow to Jira first, and then we will try to scale it to ADO if we have time. Right. So to get started with it, I am in the Exalate app. Now, the only step that I've skipped is setting up a workspace, which is simply just a aggregation of connections, right? So I've already got my workspace set up. Right. So we would start by creating a new connection. I will name my system Snow, and I'll place the URL in. Now, here, Exalate is asking me to validate that I am an authenticated user with the platform. So for that, I could provide OAuth or my username and password, and I'm going to go with my username and password. Let me just copy it. And what Exalate does at this stage is then it goes and validates whether the credentials provided are correct or not. And now what I've done is I've added the ServiceNow system into Exalate. It's authenticated, and I'm good to go from here. Right. So now the other system. Now let's talk about Jira. So for Jira, again, I'll do exactly the same thing. I'll copy the base URL. I'll come into my instance and place that. But for Jira, the authentication is based on OAuth, right? So I click on connect with Jira Cloud. And what this should do is it should hit the Atlassian API and kind of authenticate me against that. So this is the Atlassian site. I will just add my site to it, and I will click accept to do the authentication. Now, once this step completes as well, I have both my systems authenticated within Exalate. So Exalate is now aware that I am an authenticated user on both platforms. So system one is set up, system two is set up. We hit next. You can name your connection. I'm just going to call it, if I can spell correctly, of course, and we'll hit next. Right, you can review the screen. I won't take you through it. It's okay. And at this point, Exalate goes, registers both the systems, and creates a bidirectional bridge between the two systems. So once this step completes, you already have a working connection that is bidirectional between the two systems, right? As simple as that. So the next step is to continue to the configuration where I only have one setting to make, which is obvious, I think. You need to choose a target project within Jira where the incoming incidents would land into. I hope this is clear. So when ServiceNow sends traffic to Jira, which project essentially in Jira should I park those issues into? Now, on the UI itself, you are limited to selecting one project only. But if your use case demands that it's a multitude of projects, that can be done via the scripting approach, which I'll show you shortly. Right, and we'll hit build and continue. So again, our connection is fully configured, and I can already start to sync. And actually, without editing anything, I would kind of want to show you what works out of the box, right? So Exalate is asking me for an incident number that I want to send across to the Jira side. All right, so let's come into ServiceNow and let's set up an incident very, very quickly. So we'll start with the bare bones, and then we'll slowly build it up as we go along to mimic or get close to at least a real integration. All right, so we'll just say test ticket, and we'll put something. Right. So the incident is created on ServiceNow. Now, this is the piece I was referring to. Usually for the MSPs, this would be automatically created via some alerting mechanisms that would be in place. I copy the incident number, I come into Exalate, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually sync this over to the other side. Now, don't be put off by the manual step at all. We're right now building the integration, testing it, so manual makes sense, but we will automate this very, very shortly. Now, what happens at the end of this is that there's a Jira ticket created, and you have a link to it right here. And once I click on it, I will land into the test ticket that has been created on the Jira side. I'm just going to move it here for clarity. Right. So as I said, that bidirectional bridge is already in place without any configuration. Let's take a look. So let's say we make a couple of changes. Let's say we add comment to our Jira issue, and let's say we fix the description by saying this is a proper description here. So right now I've made two changes to my Jira ticket, which is how's it going and a proper description. And what I expect the integration to now do is take that back pretty much in real time to my ServiceNow incident. And sure enough, by the time I landed back, the description is updated and my comment is also there. And this should work bidirectionally. So if I add an internal note in ServiceNow, and let's say a public one, please don't mind my spelling. So I've added an internal and a public one, and by default, both of them should arrive on the Jira side, right? Now, I hear you saying, yes, internal ones should not go anywhere, but remember this, we're going to get to this in the configuration stage. Right, so the internal one has arrived, and yeah, the external one would be on its way as well. I'm sure it'll arrive as well. Right, so you see like how within less than 5 minutes, you're able to set up a working bridge across the two platforms already, right? There's a lot of work that is still needed there. I totally appreciate it. We need to do custom fields, we need to do status things, we need to do all that sort of stuff. But let's see how easy or difficult it would be to set up all that. Yeah, that was horrible spelling indeed. All right, so let's start with something simple. So let's say you have a couple of custom fields out here in Jira, which are remote number and remote link. I think they're obvious. You need to have the ServiceNow information in there. Now, how do you go about populating this? So for that, I'm going to come back to my connection. And the connection has a direction always. So this is ServiceNow to Jira, and I can just click this button to flip the direction, right? When you're going from Jira to ServiceNow. So right now, my target system is Jira. I want to populate those custom fields essentially, right? So I'm going to come in and I'm going to edit the scripts a little bit. Now, the scripts are there. So the outgoing, once they load, yeah. So the outgoing script basically dictates what data leaves ServiceNow. And the incoming script dictates how that data is consumed on the Jira end, right? So for now, yeah, you can very well write the code if you want, but you can also use Ada, our helpful AI assistants, which I am going to use actually. So I'm going to say populate custom fields remote num. Yeah, it is AI. I've got to spell it correctly, and remote link with key and issue URL from the other side. I've given it a very basic sort of a prompt to populate a couple of custom fields, and hopefully it comes up with something which is close to what we need. We'll give it a minute. Uh, okay, Ada is being not playing ball with me right now. There we go. So this is how the flow is going to be. It's going to recommend some scripts to you. You can either discard them or insert them, and then you can manually review. Of course, that line looks absolutely.
There's an M missing, yeah.
Yes, indeed. And that's probably me, right? Like, yeah. So my prompt was the problem. And the other change I'll make is just this. All right. Once you're satisfied with the script, you save it, of course. And now, in order to test it, there are two ways to do it. Obviously, you can update a ticket and then see the fields populating on the other side. But let's do it in a better way. Let's do a test run. Now, what a test run does is it does this dry run where it runs your script against the actual incident, right? And it could not set property. Oh, this is a very good example, right? So I ran into an error on the Jira side where it says cannot set property value on a null object, which probably means I made a mistake somewhere. So replica dot, yeah, again, my spelling of link was not correct, right? So it was remote link. I've got to concentrate on spellings now. All right, we'll do a test run again. But this is a great example of how the test run kind of saved you from firstly updating a ticket, seeing the data on the other side, and the error handling cycle is just being reduced to a few seconds now. Okay, so I see the payload of my Jira issue on the other side. I see the remote number field. I see that the incident number is already populated. I'm fairly happy with where we are. I publish it. And now we do a real test to see whether this works or not. So adding a comment on the ServiceNow side would mean that a transaction goes over to the Jira side, of course, but this time, of course, I expect these fields to populate along with well, along with the comment, of course, right? So the comment would arrive, but the main thing was that you got the incident number and this. And hopefully things are clear, right? So you make this scripting change once, and now it's part of your configuration. Any further incidents that go over will kind of use this configuration to do this. Uh, let's add one more example to this. So let's do a status mapping, right? Again, these things are very, very common in integrations where both systems have different data sets. So could be statuses, could be priorities, could be anything. So here I have a simple workflow to do in progress done. Whereas in ServiceNow, I probably have something quite different. Okay, in progress is common, but the rest is quite different. So again, I will go to my friend Ada and I will ask her, him, I don't know, we'll ask her to create a status mapping which maps, let's say, new, in progress, and resolved to do. in progress, and done. Again, I hope the prompt kind of makes sense to you. What I've asked for is that if the source system is sending these three values, new, in progress, and resolved, I want my system, the Jira system, to change to the relevant state, to do, in progress, or done, right? And if done correctly, this should add. Cool. So let's take a look at what it's added. So it's added a mapping new to do, in progress with a typo. Again, me, not the AI, and resolved to done. And again, I think I'm fairly satisfied with where I am. The only thing I would change is this, actually. And this would make sense because on the left side, you see that ServiceNow is sending out replica.state, right? Not status. So we would add replica.state. Again, you could go through the cycle of doing a test run and then testing how it goes, and we'll publish it. Right. So to test it again, we'll add something again to the comment. Actually, not, we didn't mean the comment. We needed the status, really. Right. So we've changed the ServiceNow state to in progress. And the idea is that the Jira state should now also change to in progress as per the mapping, and then we can go to resolved as well. And this is how you can do a status dance between the two systems as well. Very, very, very important, right? So when a new ticket comes in, whose responsibility is it? You've got to align statuses as per that. And then how, when the issue is resolved on one system, it needs to be resolved on the other side as well. All right, so we go to in progress, and I'm sure if we go to resolved out here, this will also take us uh, to the done status in Jira, because Jira did not have a resolved in my workflow, so it just had a done. So it should now take it to a done. So I hope you see that you can quickly add value to the integration itself by just aligning your custom fields, aligning your priorities, statuses, whatever different data sets you have. And yeah, AI is a great lifesaver in that sort of regard. Now,
And this is the same, sorry, Majid, to interrupt you, but this is the same AI layer that we were discussing like earlier. It's just like,
precisely.
yeah, and here is opening up like the opportunity for more business type of users to also like use it, or as we call it, citizen integrators. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
indeed. Indeed. So my prompts might have come across a little bit technical because, yeah, I use the system every day. But yeah, that's what it is, right? It opens it up totally for business users with at least the appreciation of these two disconnected systems talking to each other. As long as you respect that dynamic, then this AI is like a very good plug into building the integration. And this is where we're going with it as Exalate the product, right? We want to get away from the scripts totally. And very soon in the near future, you will just be talking to an AI bot, setting up your requirements, and then the bot just delivers the integration and tells you to go and test it out. You can still go into the scripts, but yeah, you don't really need to.
Have to, yeah.
Right. The next thing I want to do is I want to set up the automation. Now, some of you might have noticed that initially when I started, I had to plug in an incident number, click a button, and then the ticket went over, right? So I want to automate that part, right? Now, you could automate it based on anything, any field or any combination of fields within ServiceNow. I'm going to use the assignment group, right? So how to do it? Very, very easy. So I will set up a filter within ServiceNow itself, nothing to do with Exalate at this stage, at least. And we'll set up a filter on assignment group. So we'll say that if the assignment group is, let's say, database, it could be anything, right? It's just an example. But let's say the assignment group is database, then I want this ticket to be sent over to the Jira side. I simply copy the query. I'll come into Exalate and we'll create a trigger which adds an automation to this. I've literally not done anything, right? I've just copy pasted the statement within the trigger and we'll publish it. Now, the end result of this is going to be that uh, as soon as a ticket is created with the assignment group database, it lands in the Jira portal, right? I'll show you this in a minute. We'll leave Jira for now for a second, and let's go to list. Yeah, I think let's leave it here because the next ticket I create should land here automatically. I want to switch gears for a couple of minutes to Azure, right? So now the MSP has a full-blown integration running with Jira. Again, how difficult or how easy it is to scale this to another client, right? Let's take a look. I'll copy the base URL again. So where would we start from? What do you think? We would start from our workspace where we already had one connection, kind of visually shows you that ServiceNow is connected to Jira. We'll add another one. But this time, I don't need to register again my ServiceNow. It's already there. Exalate already knows that I'm a authenticated user. But yes, I would need to add the Azure DevOps system for sure. And for that, again, it is asking me for authentication. It needs a personal access token. Again, let me grab that. And again, it's a one-time thing. Once it's authenticated, we're good to set up the connection. So this time we'll set up the Snow to ADO and we'll add the webinar at the end of it. How am I spelling today? The review screen. And all right, again, at the end of this step, I will be asked to choose a project in Azure DevOps. Done. That's it. You're set up already. And I'll choose a project and we're good to go, right? Uh, but in the interest of time, before I show you, like, again, I would have shown you like the same cycle of creating an incident, it landing over, and then let's do it in a little bit more advanced way. So let's say that we add a trigger already from ServiceNow to ADO. And this time we say that we want tickets that belong to an assignment group, anything else, let's say networks. So I hope this is making sense. The database tickets will land in Jira and the network tickets will land in Azure DevOps, right? It's a rudimentary example. This could be a combination of any number of fields you would want, but okay, let's copy this and let's set this up. Let's activate it. All right. So we publish the connection. And now what I want to do is, I think you would have guessed, I want to create two incidents, one with database and one with networks. And we want to see how it lands in the two systems. So let me quickly create, should land in Jira. And the only trigger is that it has to be the assignment group database, right? I'll leave it. I won't save it at the moment. And I'll switch to the other screen. And now I will create another incident, which would be for networks. Why is it pre-populated? I think I used the filter and that's why it's pre-populated. Yes, we're good here. All right, so let's now create them. I'll save this one and I've saved this one. Now, what I expect to happen is that in my target project, this ticket should be created within my target project. Oh, it was faster than I was, right? So it's already there. I tried to navigate fast to get there. So, okay, so this was the ticket that should have landed in ADO and it did land in ADO. And on the Jira side, let's refresh. Yeah, and this one that should have landed in Jira has landed in Jira. And of course, that bidirectional bridge is totally there. So if I say hello from Jira and we say hello from Azure, all this should land on the correct incident, no cross contamination, no problems. The Jira comment should land on the incident corresponding to Jira, and the Azure comment should land into the relevant incident, right? And really, you scale from that, right? You have another system coming in, you have a fresh service client coming in, you plug that into the network, and yeah, away you go. So hopefully, Manoj, this has given you a clear understanding of how like it's easy it is to scale this if you choose the correct tooling out here.
Very nice, Majid. Thank you so much for the demo.
Welcome.
Okay. So yeah, so we talked about the blueprint. Now we saw it in action and everything, but we cannot ignore the fact that there are also fears out there, right? So what we also hear is that okay, what happens if something breaks at 2 a.m., especially if somebody has like an in-house integration in place where the engineer is not at hand or they have left or whatever. So how do you design integrations that do not require a PhD in troubleshooting, especially when you're managing that 50 plus, clients, because it can like very, very fast become a disaster, right?
Yeah, true, true. And this is a fear that keeps MSP operations leads up at night, right? Like you would
Yeah.
imagine that. But it's also like one of the clearest places I think you would see the build versus buy decision really reveal itself, right?
Mhm.
So when you build integrations in-house, as an example, whether it's custom scripts or AI generated code, as we talked about, I think observability is the last thought in your mind. The focus is always in building the solution, getting it to work, but the idea of making it understandable to the next person, that's not there, right? So when something breaks at 2 a.m., again, you're staring at undocumented stuff, which, yeah, you wouldn't know the first thing where to troubleshoot from. Now, a purpose built integration tool totally flips this on its head. Observability is a core feature that is built into the product, right? Logging, meaningful error messages, sync activity, audit logs, all that should already be there. And once you have that, then your team is able to diagnose and resolve issues without needing the person who basically originally built the integration. Now, this operational resilience, this directly leads to a reduction in your TCO. Fewer escalations, faster resolution, no single person holding the keys to the castle, right? So at 50 plus clients, as you said, I think the difference is not just money, it's existential, right? You cannot afford a system where tribal knowledge is your primary troubleshooting strategy. That is a
Mhm.
recipe for disaster. So, my answer is that the right tooling will make your integrations auditable and maintainable by any engineer within the team, not a product expert per se.
I see. I see. So that makes me like quote another thing from SBK, who have told us that they managed to save 5 hours per engineer per week after they fixed their integration and everything, and they reduced their missed tickets to actually like zero tickets. So now they are sure that they're handling all those tickets and nothing falls through the cracks. So if an MSP gets that right, what does that unlock? Is it cost saving,
Yeah,
faster onboarding, and so on?
Yeah, I think that and a lot more as well, right? So I think firstly, the SPK number is a good anchor, right? So 5 hours per engineer per week is like reasonable. But let's put that in context. At a fully loaded engineering rate, that's a significant annual saving per person. If you multiply those, it all accumulates, right? So across a
Mm.
team of 10 engineers, you're looking at material reduction in operational costs without touching headcount. That is real money saved, and that is headcount that can contribute to other places in the business. But I think the more interesting unlock is the growth capacity. So when your integration overhead drops, you can onboard new clients faster without adding staff. This was the thing that I was talking about as well. Your new client just plugs into the existing interface and away you go, right? Now, that fundamentally changes your unit economics. More revenue, same cost base. So it's a win win situation. Then there's the missed tickets piece, which you were referring to. And again, which SPK called out specifically, right? So in a managed service, a missed ticket isn't just an SLA breach. It's a conversation about whether you're the right partner. Eliminating that category of risk entirely, it transforms the client relationship from one that's periodically under review to one that renews on autopilot. So yeah, there's so many more that we can add to this list, right? Uh, if you want to model what it looks like for your own business specifically, we have a calculator on our website that helps MSPs to run the numbers around what sort of time we can save, what is the cost impact, because the initial buy decision is, yeah, there's a cost associated to it, right? So the calculator will help you plan out the 1 year, 3 year plans as to how this ownership would look like.
Thank you for mentioning that, Majid. So I dropped the our pricing calculator, guys, in the chat. Also, we have like a build versus buy ROI calculator that you can just play around with and see what you get out of your integrating. Um, So, Majid, you mentioned like the partnership of MSPs or MSSPs with their end clients and everything. But what one of our MSSPs has told us is that after fixing their integrations, they are not merely just a partner to their clients, but they're actually an extension of their customers' team, which is a massive competitive edge, I would say, for an MSP. So, what does that transformation look like, and how does it change the way like MSPs, at the end of the day, win deals?
Yeah, I know where that quote comes from. I won't say, but I know. So there's a fundamental difference between an MSP that reacts to client problems and one that's embedded deeply enough to anticipate those problems. Now, In order to make the latter happen, integration is the only way to do this. So think about when your systems are genuinely connected with your clients, tickets flow automatically, incidents are visible, there are no manual handoffs. You stop being a vendor to them and you start being a part of their very operational fabric. That's a very difficult position for any competitor to displace, right? Because you're not just offering a service anymore, you're woven into the pattern of work that your client has essentially. And in a sales context, this story is even more powerful. Prospects don't just want a capable MSP, they want one that they will feel like is an extension of their own team. And if you can demonstrate that with your integration models, then yeah, that conversation is a different conversation to the one you would usually be having.
Yeah, for sure. As a fact, I know that this is an integral part of their offering to their customers. So it's just like another line item of the contract, and that's what it is because it cannot be like separated from the whole business at this point.
Absolutely.
All right. So Majid, I have like one final question for you, and that's mainly for the MSSPs or MSPs who are like listening or watching this episode. And that is so there are these like MSPs that have some integrations that is either not working or is a little bit like messy, or they're still like drowning in like emails and whatever else, and they cannot just like integrate securely, or they have a problem with scalability, right? So what is the very first step in your opinion, and let's say what should they tackle right away after this webinar, let's say?
Difficult. So I would say sit down, take a back seat, and do a very honest, thorough audit of your integrations. So what that means is map out every integration you're running right now, write down how it was built, who owns it, and what breaks if the person who deals with it leaves tomorrow, right? From there, I think you should prioritize by risk and not by complexity. So, which integration, if it failed tonight, would cause you the most damage to an SLA, to a client relationship, to your reputation, whatever, right? Start there. The goal this quarter isn't to fix everything, but it's to eliminate your most dangerous single point of failure. So, the riskiest integration in play right now would be my call. And if you're turning down clients because you can't integrate securely or at scale, then please don't normalize that. That is not normal in this day and age. The MSPs who get this right in the next 12 months are going to be operating in a fundamentally different position, which is lower cost, faster growth, stickier clients. The ones who don't are going to find the gap increasingly difficult to close.
Yeah, okay, that's a very good piece of advice. Thank you, Majid. All right, so we have come to the very end of this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have taken something away from it. If you want to pressure test where you stand when it comes to like integration, we are more than happy to be part of this conversation. Let it like, is it like the technical evaluation or the proof of concept, or just want to have like a call about your current setup and everything? You know where to find us. You can reach out to Majid on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me, or you can just go to exit.com, book a discovery call with us, and we will be happy to walk you through and sit on your use case at the moment. Okay, so wrapping up, let us know if you have any specific topic in mind that you would like us to cover in the next episodes. Thank you again for joining. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.